As the global community faces unprecedented environmental challenges, the urgency to transition to cleaner energy sources has never been more pronounced. In this crucial moment, youth are emerging as essential players in driving this transition, bringing with them a spirit of innovation, adaptability, and a keen understanding of technology. Representing about 37% of the global workforce, young people are not just future leaders, but are already shaping the green economy of today. The session Youth in Action, Catalyst for Next Gen Solutions, is a testament to the dynamic role that young people play in advancing renewable energy with a particular focus on solar power. This session highlights how young influencers are leveraging their platforms to educate, inspire, and mobilize global action for clean energy transitions. By challenging conventional narratives, these influencers are making climate action more relatable, accessible, and inclusive for all. This session will delve into how young people are driving critical policy changes and bridging the skill gaps within the renewable energy sector. Through their innovative approaches, they are empowering communities and ensuring that sustainability and energy access are at the forefront of global conversations. This session will showcase personal journeys of young leaders, illustrating how the unique perspectives and diverse backgrounds enrich their dialogue in renewable and sustainable energy practices.
Thank you very much. Let's hear it for her one more time, please. Ladies and gentlemen, before I go on to invite our moderator, let me just quickly announce something that the Ministry of Climate Change, Environment and Energy, along with the Ministry of Education under the government of the Republic of Maldives, have organized a renewable energy exposure tour to India for students studying in grade 11 and in 12. The aim is, of course, to motivate the students towards increased participation in the energy sector, particularly focusing on renewable energy and women empowerment in the field. Through this program, the Maldives government wants to inspire students, especially female students, to pursue careers and interest in the energy sector, particularly renewable energy and more specifically solar energy. And many of these students are right here with us. Why don't we just put our hands together and welcome them while they attend this session. Thank you for joining us, and I hope this session and all the sessions which are happening as a part of the International Solar Festival inspire you to take the lead to work in this direction. Having said that, let me now invite our moderator for this session to kindly join us here amongst a round of applause. Kekashan Basu, Canadian environmental and human rights activist, founder president, Green Hope Foundation. Can we hear it for Ms. Basu, please? Elizabeth Yithuti, a global environmentalist and young African climate champion, founder of Green Generative Initiative, our panelist for the discussion. Welcoming her on stage, please. Martinez, indigenous climate and community activist, hip-hop artist, author of Imaginary Borders. I don't know if I can take the liberty when I heard hip-hop to actually request him to do something maybe at the end of it. I'll take my permissions, but thank you, warm welcome to you. And finally, Vidyut Mohan, UNEP Young Champion of the Earth for 2020, and Takaja being Earthshot Prize awardee in 2021. Thank you. Put your hands together. It's a very diverse, very interesting and a young panel here. And I hand over the session, of course, to the moderator to take this forward.
Thank you very much. And hello, everyone. So delighted to be here with all of you today. My name is Kehkasha. I am from Toronto, Canada. I am founder president of Green Hope Foundation and a United Nations human rights champion. And you might have seen in the agenda that I was supposed to be a speaker, but I was asked to also serve as moderator, so here I am. And I am so honored to be the moderator of a session of Youth in Action, one that's actually gonna highlight the power of young people to be able to drive change from within their communities, from within so many different stakeholder groups. Because as young people, we are often seen in a different light. We are seen as not important enough, not experienced enough, not aware enough to bring about change, but that's so not true. And I see that every day personally, working on the ground as founder president of a grassroots youth-led social innovation enterprise, my work over the past decade has literally focused on alleviating downtrodden and forgotten communities, making sure that we go beyond superficial change to actually address the root oppressive structures and fundamental issues that are drivers of inequities and inequalities in 28 different countries with over 500,000 people. And working on the ground, you see that you require locally grounded solutions to address these issues. And that's exactly the mission of Green Hope Foundation, wherein we utilize clean energy technology for social good using an intersectional approach to address these inequities to rebuild better, and particularly using solar energy technology that are part of the solutions in so many of these regions and communities where there is a complete lack of infrastructure. So, for instance, deep inside rural Bangladesh, we operate our first school in a cluster of villages that's decimated by climate change, the Green Hope Foundation Academy of Hope for Women and Girls, that is solar powered and provides climate resilience education to girls in the mornings and functions as a sewing school for women in the evenings, enabling them to have a stable source of income. As part of our Women's Health Initiative, we distribute solar cookers to rural women in Liberia, Bangladesh, Western India to protect their respiratory health and to make sure that we reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Places where climate change and COVID-19 work together to decimate the education system, we launched solar-powered mobile libraries to provide books to the doorstep of out-of-school children. It's currently providing books to the doorstep of 300,000 out-of-school girls in countries in Asia and Africa. We've installed sustainable agricultural systems through agrivoltaics, empowering farmers, increasing crop yield, combining that with solar-powered irrigation. And in fact, our farm in my home country, Canada, actually utilizes solar irrigation to grow organic vegetables, which we then distribute to the local food banks to reduce food insecurity. To address climate change and use water insecurity, we've built solar water farms and solar distillation systems in communities in Kiribati, in Cambodia, to make sure the indigenous populations there have access to clean drinking water. We've seen the importance of building solar streetlights to make sure women and girls have safe spaces to come out of their homes in the evenings, and girls feel safe going to school at dawn. We will see the importance of solar computer labs that see how STEM education and STEAM education can be powered using solar energy to create positive change, upskill youth, and make sure that they're able to get good jobs, uplift their communities. And all of these solar grids have an annual carbon offset of 4.5 million kgs of CO2. And the reason I share these examples with you here today is because as young people, we're often tokenized as just strikers and protesters in the climate movement, people who blame the government instead of doing something themselves. But that tokenization is really, really harmful to us because it views us as a homogenous entity. And we need to work to shift the mindset with which we look at young people, see them as not just as those who play the blame game, but those who are actually change makers and driving solutions from the ground up and from the top down. And that is lucrative to invest in young people. And most importantly, we're not just the future generation or the next gen. We are the present generation, and we are right here. And so I am so enthused to be able to moderate a panel today that is going to showcase the power of young people to bring about positive change to drive a more energy efficient and sustainable future. So without any further ado, I would like to hand it over to our panelists. And the first person I would like to invite is Elizabeth from the Green Generation Initiative. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. My name is Elizabeth Wathuti. I am an environmentalist and also a global climate justice advocate and the founder of the Green Generation Initiative. I also serve as the youngest commissioner at the Global Commission on the Economics of Water and the Nairobi Rivers Commission in Kenya that represents young people and civil society. And at the Green Generation Initiative, we are working with children, young people, and local community in terms of creating the next generation of leaders who are environmentally conscious across the African continent. And we do this through collective on-ground action that is basically a lot on how we do climate action, nature action, at the same time that allows us to have a higher bargaining power in the global decision-making spaces. And with regards to promoting clean energy solutions, we work with schools to transition them from over-reliance on the main grid to solar lighting, as well as clean cooking. And also through partnerships, we're able to work on promoting the setup of communal ablution blocks that also serve as biogas cooking access, especially for people in the informal settlements. And as you might know, the African continent is often referred to as the sun continent because we usually receive more hours of bright sunlight as compared to any other continent. And right now, nearly half of the world's population is living in energy poverty, and most of them actually live in the global south. And for the African continent, even with 60% of the world's solar resources, we still find that only 1% of this solar capacity is actually tapped into. And this is according to the International Energy Agency. And also we have more than 970 million people that still lack access to clean cooking first and technology. And for us as young people, we see this as investment opportunities towards a sustainable future that have yet to be tapped into. And of course, the young people are leading the charge and they've been demonstrating the possibilities, but also this has not come without barriers, especially when it comes to barriers on resource mobilization. And I'm going to highlight some of them, having worked with young people across the African continent on what these barriers are. One of them, there's a lot of restricted and misprioritized funding caps, where we find that a lot of the funding is allocated towards capacity building workshops and also events funding for young people, but there's so much limited funding for them to be able to scale up their solutions that are already ongoing on the ground. And we need to see more resources as well being allocated to upskilling, being allocated to building organizational capacity for the young people, and also being allocated to the investments of these locally led solutions that the young people are championing. And of course, there's the aspect of complex funding application processes and bureaucracy that also means that the resources available do not end up trickling down to the young people, especially at the local level. And there's also few or no guaranteed financial systems that exist that can actually reduce the youth financial risk portfolio that is needed to be able to scale up youth innovations and also the investment footprint within the innovations that the young people are leading. And I would also like to appreciate the fact that in the last few years, the participation of young people has widely increased in such forum. But there are still challenges because it takes place still in a very ad hoc manner and it lacks consistency. And this is also because we lack proper platforms and institutional frameworks that can actually sustain youth participation. So within this same setup, young people have of course been able to find ways in which to maneuver and work around these challenges. And of course, in terms of policy, we have been able to engage in an approach where we showcase our solutions and go beyond the normal lobbying for youth participation to actually showcasing our solutions so that the institutions and governments can begin to see young people as solution providers within the space. And we've also learned how to leverage on the power of one and the power of our collective action. So across the African continent, we are consolidating youth networks and our voices into clear systemic frameworks requests, and mostly within the aspect of institutionalization, so that youth engagement is not something that is happening on the sidelines, but is actually institutionalized within the existing frameworks. And this is actually something that is also adoptable by governments and multilateral systems like the African Union. For instance, last year, together with other young people in Kenya and from across Africa, we had the largest and first of a kind African Youth Climate Assembly, where we were able to self-organize and mobilize to have over 800 young people from across the African continent within the auspices of the Africa Climate Summit. And what was special about this setup is the fact that we came up with a youth declaration that was also adopted and inputted into the declaration of the African Union and the heads of states and government. And this means opening up room for structured and more formal youth inclusion in the multilateral systems that also allows us to have higher bargaining power, but also allows the allocation of funding resources towards youth-led solutions. And I think this is one of the aspects that needs to be adopted when it comes to speaking about youth inclusion, youth engagement. It has to be meaningful and it has to be genuine. And a few recommendations also. The renewables potential, including solar, is barely scratched right now, and youth have the potential. Youth have the potential to be able to market and also decentralize these technologies and increase market adoption and consumption. So companies here also need to start tapping on us to bring this shift. And also in terms of the policy conversations, we need to make sure that we can link this also to the aspect of economic diplomacy, because if we don't have this, then we're not going to be able to scale up renewables on high renewable tariffs. And lastly, when it comes to youth institutional access, I believe the International Solar Alliance also has an opportunity to consider setting up a structured youth platform that opens up access to guaranteed finance scheme and also employment opportunities and the know-how within this system. Otherwise, business-wise, the future might be very hard to see the need for renewables because youth are the future. So I think it got to start now, it got to be intentional, and it got to start at this International Solar Alliance. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for highlighting the importance of putting the funding where it actually needs to be and ensuring that as young people, people actually invest in us and our young innovative solutions. So thank you very much for sharing that. I shall now give the floor to Vidyut of Takachar.
Hi everyone, lovely to be here, and thank you so much for the invitation. My name is Vidyut. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Takachar, and I started this long time back, but I guess I was still younger in my master's program, and the work that we do was actually my master's thesis and also my co-founder's PhD thesis. One could really start, get going on things as early as when you are in college, and use the networks and resources as a young person to implement your idea and solution. Coming to what we do, right now is the month of September here in India, and it's raining, and the air quality is decent, I guess. But a month from now, it's not going to be so. All our woes of bad air quality are going to start for the next few months from there on. And part of it is due to open burning of agricultural waste in farms in and around in northern India particularly. And we work on solving this problem. Essentially, worldwide, close to about $120 billion worth of crop and forest residues are just burnt in the open, which otherwise could have been used productively by smallholder farmers to generate extra income, but it just gets burnt up in smoke. And what we are trying to develop are small-scale, low-cost, portable equipment that can just go to these farms to process agricultural waste into a valuable byproduct called biochar, which essentially is this dark carbon-rich material that is able to sequester carbon in the soil for thousands of years. Now, the advantages of doing so are many. Environmentally speaking, firstly being that you're able to utilize agricultural waste productively and not get that burnt up, while at the same time you're sequestering carbon in the soil for thousands of years. And particularly for a country like India and other developing countries, durable carbon removal of such kind is very, very important because after the primary step of countries and companies reducing their emissions first, this is the only verifiable and durable way to offset carbon emissions after that first step, among other solutions that have a similar sequestration impact. So it sequesters carbons, it increases the crop yields for farmers, but most at the same time, through our work particularly, we're trying to promote the aspect of climate justice. So biomass technologies have existed for a long period of time, for many decades, but most of these technologies have been large factory-like setups, which where the industrialists typically leverage to create value, and farmers typically end up being users of the end product that's generated from these value chains. Unlike in the case of solar, where decentralized solar really democratized that. So we are trying to flip the narrative on that. So we have, through really decentralized and affordable equipment, we are trying to make communities that are most impacted by climate change and putting the power in their hands to be a central part in the fight against climate change and create value and resilience in those communities itself. My journey started way back in college. So as when I starting up way back then, I realized, I mean, one piece of advice that I can give, particularly for young people, while working on the climate space is all about skills. And over this journey as an entrepreneur, for me, this entire intervention is extremely interdisciplinary. So ours is a highly technical solution. So various kinds of engineering involved in developing that solution, but also at the same time, there are various other questions of how do you get the solution funded? What are the different kinds of instruments to do the R&D for the solution? What are the different kinds of funding instruments to make this affordable for your end users? What kind of policy instruments can you leverage, right? There are various difficult terms in the climate space itself that got me lost a lot of times, and it was difficult for me to navigate. And I honestly come from a relatively elite ecosystem where I had access to all of these resources to upskill myself and understand. But where I see lacking is access of these knowledge resources for anyone who would want to learn about this space and contribute in the context and understanding that they have from where they come from. So that would be my suggestion in terms of the need for skills and also equitable access of the knowledge resources in all parts of the world to get those skills for people to actually channelize their passions and energy in a more productive manner.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Vidya, for showing the power of youth entrepreneurship and for sharing the impact your solution has had and how it's moving towards climate justice. Last but not the least, I shall now give the floor to Shipeskat.
My name is Shiteskat. My people are the Xochimilco people of Xochimilco, Mexico. My father's side, I was very privileged to be raised with the proximity to our indigenous culture, our values, our systems of ceremony, of storytelling, our songs. And my mother raised me in the environmental movement from the age of 5, 6, 7 years old, seeing my older siblings participate in organizing our community, fighting to protect our community from fossil fuel extraction. I've been played various roles within the climate and environmental justice space from a very young age. And as a storyteller, as a community organizer, as a spokesperson, as a musician and an artist, exploring how we can use art and storytelling and music within our social movements to catalyze change, to bring people together, to build bridges, to create deeper coalitions. As art has played a role throughout social movements across time and throughout history, how can we return to some of those practices to meet this moment that we are at, facing the climate crisis? I was 12 and 13 years old when I was working with my younger brother, who was about 9, and we were traveling around our community where we grew up in Colorado in the US, giving presentations and working in communities to educate around the harmful impacts of the natural gas extractive industry, or the fracking industry, which is oftentimes touted as a bridge fuel on our way towards a renewable energy future. So fossil fuel corporations can continue to use more and more harmful forms of extraction to get this deeper, harder to access shale, oil, natural gas. And throughout that journey of educating community, we were using art and music and storytelling to help educate middle school students, high school students, And as a result of that, because of the noise that we were making and the community organizing we were doing, we received death threats from the oil industry at the age of 13, at the age of 9, because they fear what it is that young people have within us, which is these stories and this positionality as a generation that is here right now and is witnessing the generation that is empowered politically do all of the wrong things when it comes to preserving and protecting our future. I saw the natural gas industry not only contaminate our water, affect the health of my community, affect our air quality, affect the viability of our land, disproportionately target and impact Black and brown communities across the Colorado Front Range, across the United States. But I also saw it corrupt and corrode our politics, our politicians, the ways in which the fossil fuel industry is subsidized by billions and billions of US dollars every single year in my country, the way that fossil fuel corporations spend millions of dollars financing elections so that policies are put into place that are against the best interest of our communities. I witnessed that at a very young age and became very disillusioned with our political process. So when I was 15, I joined 20 other youth plaintiffs in suing the federal government for violating our constitutional rights to life, liberty, and property. And this is a historic climate lawsuit in the United States that has been ongoing for the last 9 years and is continuing to push through the courts with the hope that we will reach the Supreme Court to bring this unprecedented case to the highest court in the US to set a new precedent, to enshrine our constitutional right to a stable climate. Within that, the social movements that we have seen, the ways in which young people have organized to build bridges, to build coalitions, to work with each other across political divides, to fight to protect our land, our water, our climate, is really unified around this idea of climate justice. Our generation is uniquely positioned to understand the intersections between health, the climate crisis, gender, racial justice, indigenous sovereignty, all of these different struggles for liberation that communities across the globe have been fighting for generations are very intertwined and very interconnected. And as young people, we can see those connections. We can see the ways that our stories are tied together more than those that have come before us. It's a very important and inspiring time to be alive because not only is the crisis so dire, but the opportunity is so beautiful. The transition away from fossil fuels, the fight to keep fossil fuels in the ground, not only offers us the opportunity to transition from one energy source to another, but it can invite us to reimagine our relationship to the land, reimagine our relationship to the earth, reimagine our relationship to each other as people. Where right now we exist in a world where the economies are incentivized to create sacrifice zones, to sacrifice our people, to sacrifice people in your communities, to say that it's okay to contaminate the water in this community, the air, the land, the soil, in the name of profit for very small, very few corporations. We have the opportunity to challenge that and ensure that a just transition towards renewable energies, a just transition away from fossil fuels can exist in a way that invests in frontline communities, invests in historically marginalized, the poorest, Black, brown, indigenous communities across the globe. The global South needs to be of the primary beneficiaries of the transition away from the fossil fuel empire that has existed for so long. And we have an opportunity right now to be at the forefront of that. Our generation, as you can see, is carrying the torch, not only in our social movements, not only in our courts, not only in fighting and advocating for policy, but in implementing the technological solutions that are needed to carry us into the future. It is such an amazing time to be alive. For me, as an artist, as a storyteller, and as a community organizer, I'm privileged to share the stage with these incredible young activists. And I thank you all for showing up and sharing this moment with us. And just be reminded that those that have been the most affected by the climate crisis and most marginalized by the fossil fuel industry must be centered. We must keep fossil fuels in the ground. And a just transition is necessary for all of us to not just avert the worst of the climate crisis, but to build thriving economies, to create millions of clean jobs, to transition an economic model away from one that is extractive, that is toxic, that is exploitative, that destroys our communities, and one that invests in a more sustainable, regenerative, holistic, and interconnected future for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shukesta, for highlighting not just the importance of art in this movement, but also why it's so important for us to have a just transition to clean energy, not just any transition, but a just one. And would have loved to open up the floor for questions from the audience, but unfortunately we're out of time. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of our amazing panelists here today for highlighting what young people can do and the solutions young people are implementing. And today's panel is testament to the fact that the solutions driven by young people aren't just driving social and environmental change, they're also driving economic change that is inclusive, driven from the ground up. There are so many commitments that are out there, sustainability commitments that are very, very high on ambition, but when it comes to implementation, they falter. But we have our youth-led solutions right here where young people are implementing this change from within their communities and creating a more sustainable world. So I think it's very obvious that there is no more time for procrastination. We need to invest in our young people in order to drive solutions that are from the ground up, that are inclusive, and that truly work to ensure a just transition to clean energy, build a climate resilient and sustainable world, and make sure that no one is left behind. Failure to act is not an option. Thank you everyone for being here today. Have a wonderful day.
Can we have a huge round of applause for everyone here on stage? A very young, a very driven set of panelists right here. Thank you very much to our moderator for, of course, bringing this and weaving this conversation together. How many young people in the house? May I just see a raise of hands, please? Yeah, all in mind. Okay, young like me, I can see that's everyone. And young like them? Thank you. So we see a lot of people here. Let's give it up for these young people, the youth, the future, because I think, I don't know if I have a right to say this, but I strongly believe, and from whatever I can see, this generation, I'm also part of it. So this generation is much more driven and they know that they are for the environment way more than we are. We still are thriving and doing our best to get there, but they are born with this, and thank you for doing this. And while we get our mementos here on stage, can we have the mementos please? We have a hip hop artist. Can I take the liberty please, if I can request you for... Okay. Yeah. So before we give the mementos, Martinez, can I request you if you can just share your art with us, maybe 2 lines, yes? And for everyone, this is not planned, it's a privilege to hear from an artist, so please put your hands together before we hand this over.
This is the turning of the tides. There I was, 6 years old, my eyes wide open. I saw the storms, city swallowed up by the ocean. Humanity fucked up, look at the world broken. I want to see the borders open. I wrote this music, it was something I found hope in. My generation finally seeing the web woven. Everything is connected, our generation was chosen to guide the way to the light. You see, this is our movement, walk on roads paved by every great leader of every revolution. We do it in our way. And this is a celebration. If love is resistance, you know that it's in our nature. We show up by the thousands, people of every nation. We summit the highest mountains to prove to them we can make it. It starts right here, right now. Every one of you has light within. Now is the time to shine out. Hands up if you feel it too. This music is a movement. It's proof if you feel it moving you. So we here now like we've always been. Never alone. Creator writing stories in the sky so our people can follow it home. Thank you.
Whoa! Come on everyone, put your hands together. The message is very clear. And thank you for writing this kind of music and bringing it and sharing it with the world. I'm sure it will inspire many others. We have Kakul here with us. Can I please request her to kindly present a memento to a very special set of panelists right here on stage. Can we please put our hands together once again? Especially all the young people who raised their hands initially. I want to hear it louder. You just sound young too, right? Yes, everyone, one by one, please. finally, our very vibrant moderator, thank you. Thank you very much. Let's get a picture before we bring this session to an end. One final together, applause please. Thank you very much, and thank you for what you're doing. I'm sure you'll inspire many others, and you are doing it every day and every day in and out. So thank you very much once again. Thank you.